Hey, this is James Cox with the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast. This will be our episode number 4. So if you haven't checked out the first 3, you really should do so. We talked about perseverance, black belt principles, and integrity. But I'm excited for these next couple of ones because I have a special guest with me. And today we have Mr. Cody Hallford, who's a pro MMA fighter, lifelong martial artist. And we're going to talk about a variety of things. I think it will add some value, some good content, and hopefully some education on top of some motivation, for martial artists and non-martial artists alike. So, Mr. Hallford, if you want to kind of introduce yourself, give a little bit of your martial arts background.
My name's Cody Hallford. I've been training with James for the last 13 or 14 years. Before that, I trained with his boxing coach when I was a teenager. So we kind of knew each other from before when I was a kid in middle school. But I've been training, and then I started fighting in 2009, about a year and a half after I started training with James. And amateur career of 5 fights, and then pro fighting after that. And I haven't had a fight probably in about 5 years now, though. But still practicing martial artists, though. Yeah.
You know, some IBJJF.
Yep.
High-level jiu-jitsu. Did
yep.
the Pan Ams, a couple of other tournaments there.
Competing.
Tough competition, isn't it?
Oh yeah, learning and starting to compete in jiu-jitsu. I mean, it's just a different level of like before. When I first started doing martial arts, I did it just to train and learn. I was a fan from watching MMA, and actually the jiu-jitsu is what attracted me initially, but I wanted to do it all. And I tried a couple of trials, different places, but when I walked in the doors and they were really hitting the bags and really training like fighters, that's what made me want to stay here. And that was kind of part of my decision to be here, because they were working on everything, and they were doing it in a practical manner where it was being practiced. Like, you can't just throw punches at the air. You know what I mean? Like, some places we're just doing a lot of kata-like
aerobic, kata, yeah. I remember your initial classes vaguely, and then we'd have some self-defense going on in one room. We had the boxing rings. There were fighters in there, and Jesse Kent too. Man, he's a good boxing coach. What a blessing it was for me and us that followed to be able to train under him. He was all about boxing, nothing else. But he sure knew his craft. Yeah, old school. Do it 1,000 times. Yeah. Basics. Cool. So, kind of looking back, Cody, what do you think benefits and value? These years. What have you really gained? What's some takeaways in life and on the mat from your martial arts training?
Self-improvement and knowing myself and my ability, and honing that, and making my physical self connect with my mental, becoming mentally and physically connected, and having a craft to try to work on and improve myself in many ways. And, challenging yourself and figuring out who you are through martial arts, and meeting other people and figuring out how to learn and how to teach and how to feed off of each other. It's like a family. So there's a great social aspect, but just the fundamental development of yourself is probably the biggest impact.
True. So there's truth in the mind, body, spirit philosophy and advertisements of martial arts. You know, focus your mind, body, and spirit. Yeah. But you see that there's been results, for you and even those around you?
Oh yeah, 100%. It definitely helps. Knowing yourself better helps your confidence in being able to be the person you need to be when you need to be it. So pressure makes diamonds.
Yeah, I like that.
And part of this practice of pushing towards improvement, you kind of apply it to the rest of your life, about your job, about your family. It all applies, in my opinion.
Definitely. Because you get the habits, right?
Right.
You get habits of doing a push-up correctly, of throwing a left hook in detail and difficult, and you know, jiu-jitsu, oh man, so complex itself. And then maybe you carry those habits where you're not taking it easy or giving up, or you're okay with struggle, right? I think that's good. I think my instructor, at least for me, made me okay with struggle, because then there's struggle in life. If it's emotion, if it's, you know, challenges you go through outside of here, you know, financial, emotion, whatever, relationships, I think we probably deal with struggle a little better because of martial arts, for sure.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's good practice for life.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing, people will debate back and forth. I see pros and cons. I wanted to get your opinion. You know, doing such a variety of martial arts styles, I'll be the first to tell some people, we're not the greatest jiu-jitsu guys. We're not the greatest boxers. We might not even be the greatest self-defense artists, because it's hard when we do all of them, right? But I was told once, it's more important to be good at everything than it is great at one thing. Again, pros and cons, right? But what do you feel about doing such a wide variety of mixed martial arts like you have, and like we do at our schools? You know, pros and cons of not getting deep enough into one style to be proficient enough at it, or not?
I think I agree with you in trying to be great at everything. Typically, you end up being good, but usually you're better at one thing. So everybody has strengths.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of naturally happens where you are going to be simply better at a certain aspect. But I think it's absolutely important and needed for you to be good, or strive to be good at all, because you know, by being well-rounded, you can beat plenty of masters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But typically, well, let's say my strength, I feel like is grappling, and I'm not the best grappler, but I feel like it's one of my.
You're good. You're good.
I feel like it's my strength, but I'm good at everything because I trained at it and worked on it with you. You know, that just came out as my natural strength, as far as, you know, in general, and in my opinion. But I'm able to use those other aspects to overtake whatever is challenging me.
Yeah.
You need
to make up.
You need a good fundamental understanding of everything, if not even better than that. But I think you're typically going to lean one way or another as far as strengths-wise. I think that's just the natural way of things happening. But I agree with the fundamental idea that you should definitely try to be good at everything.
Yeah. I hear some people, I think when you're really young, maybe you could get away with this part, or if you're disciplined and you know what you really feel you have a purpose in the long run. Let's say you want to be an MMA fighter, and they may go to some places where they're going to literally focus a year on nothing but boxing. Nothing, you know, to get good at that first. And then, okay, now go into jiu-jitsu, and then focus on that, and then maybe to wrestling or
That kind of reminds me of Stephen Akula, one of your old national champions. He started out as a Taekwondo artist
Amazing
with
kicker,
his family,
right? One of the best kickers
father,
I've ever seen.
And then he worked on boxing.
Got good at boxing.
You know, for a long time, and then he came to you so he could work them together.
Yeah, put it together, and even did some jiu-jitsu,
or that's
self-defense.
the way he put it. So that sounds like similar.
I was wondering if you wait, if that could be where you wait too late. You know what I mean? Or else you grow them all at the same time. Someone else told me once to think about your martial arts like a forest of trees. If this tree is representing your jiu-jitsu, this tree is representing your kickboxing, your self-defense, your weapons, whatever, your fitness, then just grow them all together instead of some people are set. You know, I have people that will call me, no, all I want to do is jiu-jitsu, and then later, then I want to do kickboxing. You know, I'm like, well, why not just do it all at the same time? But I guess it could work both ways. I think some UFC fighters have built their way up by doing one thing at a time, but I definitely know the majority of them mix it from the very beginning. Yeah.
I think we all, like in martial arts, typically we have like a kickboxing class and then a jiu-jitsu class or a wrestling class, and you kind of you separate them out so you can focus on certain things at a certain time. But I think as far as MMA goes, it's very important to have those days where you mix them, like a grappling day with strikes. You know, I think it's important, especially say for somebody who's going to compete, to have those special times where you mix.
Yeah, I'd get bored doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But jiu-jitsu's a tough one because I've been doing a lot more of it this year and competing a few times myself, and there's so much to it. But yeah. Let's talk about competing, because the majority of martial arts students don't compete. I mean, they don't. In most schools nowadays, there are fight gyms where they press it hard. The majority of the gym competes. I think there is a huge turnover. They might compete once. You know how many people have a 1-0 or an 0-1 record? But the majority of the schools now, it's a very small percentage compete. Now, maybe more in sport karate and point fighting, or even straight jiu-jitsu. MMA is probably lesser, I guess, depending on the culture and where you are of the school. But my whole point is, do you think everyone should compete? Knowing the benefits of competition and gauging the reality?
I don't think everyone should compete. That's like, I don't think it's a necessity in your growth as a martial artist altogether, but I think it's an aspect that can grow your martial arts and it absolutely depends on the person who needs what. I think certain people are going to need more. They're going to need that competition. They're going to need that thing to push them, or they're going to want it. Like, it's just going to naturally happen. So when I walked in these doors, my idea wasn't to fight. That became something after the bug bit me.
Either you got a passion or you got confident.
Yeah. I think I just enjoyed it, and I was a physically competitive person before, but once I got into this and I got passionate about it, that's just what kind of person I am, and that's okay that everybody's not that. That's okay. I think martial arts training you should give people both avenues, which is what we do here, and I think that's what's best. I mean, I think it's good to push competition to get people to challenge themselves and go to another level. I think it definitely helps motivate. It also, but obviously it can push away.
Yeah. If they have a bad
not necessarily the
right?
wrong person, but the wrong for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there's more assets for it. The pros, I think most people should compete at times just to gauge themselves, but also feel that, are you prepared? And it's the risk, especially like with a fight that's a match. Everyone had their first fight, right? Imagine fighting Mike Tyson or Anderson Silva for your first fight, right? So you have a bad experience on your first fight, then you never want to even do martial arts again, much less compete.
It can definitely be. I think it can, but
it's probably a lot about the coaching, right?
Yeah, that's the hardest part.
You see gyms that throw fighters in the cage with 2 months experience and just crazy.
Yeah, my attitude about that has always been, if you're not willing to train a certain amount of time before you fight, then how are you disciplined enough to be a fighter?
How long do you think?
If you can't be disciplined enough to train this long, you won't listen to me and train this long first, then how are you going to be able to grow to be able to fight people and do well if you're not?
How long do you think someone should train? Let's go with MMA. That's the biggest thing now. Cage fighting, and an adult. How long should they train coming in with zero experience before they step in the cage?
My experience was that I went a year and a half. I went a year before I said I want to compete, and then I waited another 6 months of serious fight team training to lead up to my fight. And personally, I think that's necessary. A lot of people want to go a lot faster than that. If it were up to me, if I was building my own team and I was just like, you know what, I want this to be the most successful team possible, I would want them to be almost a blue belt level before they have their amateur fight, as far as jiu-jitsu wise, so that they have a understanding of all the basic submissions, so that they're not just put in this position when they're just a fish out of water, But it's difficult to get people to commit that long before, because they really want to compete, and sometimes people are going to do whatever it takes to do what they want to do. So then they're going to go, looking somewhere else and maybe making bad choices,
I think what I'm hearing is patience.
Yeah,
that's
I
the
think
word, right?
patience.
In life and martial arts, patience. Especially if you're in it for the long haul. A lot of people just want a bucket list, get one in and be done.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe not as much
How many
time
brain
there,
cells you want to trade to
right?
to knock that one off your bucket list?
Yeah.
Maybe you want to
right.
just.
Yeah. A couple more quick questions. So, why, in your opinion, do more people not train in martial arts? Because you know the benefits, and I think they know the benefits. I mean, I think society has done well from Bruce Lee to Chuck Norris to Karate Kid to Ninja Turtles to Taibo to UFC. Everything's gone in generations and stages where martial arts is a big thing. It's very well known that there's a lot of benefits to gain, and that just about everybody could do martial arts to some level and get something out of it. In Abilene here where we live, there's 130,000 people. This location, we have about 250 students, similar at the other. But shouldn't we have a lot more? Why do more people not train in martial arts?
I think for the most part, most people are afraid of confrontation, and they also overestimate their abilities, so they either think they don't need it or that they don't think they're worthy to do it. Like,
confidence?
I think part of it is, you mentioned all those things, right? You mentioned UFC, you mentioned these big stars, Taibo, all these things. They're like, I'm not one of those people. I'm not, I can't do those things. I think that's part of it, is just a confidence thing, and I think it's still kind of a little taboo to a certain degree as far as being a person that practices martial arts. I don't think it's of the norm as, say, like football or some other sport. Like, I still think people are having trouble like totally accepting it as like a totally normal mainstay. But I think MMA becoming so mainstream, I think, is helping that 100%.
Yeah, you can walk into a Buffalo Wild Wings during an MMA fight and it's packed.
Yeah.
You go to an MMA gym and there's 10 or 15 people there.
Yeah, I don't know. I think part of it is just putting yourself out there. People don't want to be putting themselves out there and putting themselves out there on the mat in front of people watching over in the chairs over there, and I'm going to be trying to do these techniques and learn things in front of other people. People don't like that. They got most of their chances doing it as a child. So that's why I think we have more children that come in to start martial arts than you do adults.
Man, I see people, a lot of times the people that need it the most are the people that don't get it or don't try it. I mean, with all respect, law enforcement, military, and maybe it's some ego, some pride, maybe it's the confidence, maybe it's stepping out of that comfort zone. The parents bring the kids predominantly for the life skills. Of course, there's child obesity now, behavior issues, ADD. Adults, they come either for some self-defense, fitness, social belonging, but we don't get, many that I feel, correctional officers, law enforcement, military, the kind of people that really need the self-defense and fitness.
It's unfortunate.
They just don't do it. I think, or if they don't want maybe people to know who they are and that they're here and that they don't really know how to fight when it comes down to it.
Yeah, it's pride.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, people who are saying positions where it's really necessary and a necessity, and they choose not to, I think typically pride is what is involved.
Yeah. I agree. Well, guys, you can all get something from the martial arts. You have an interest, shop around, find a good place, try it out. Get in there and taste it, right? And see what it can do for you. And I think you'll be glad that you did. Of course, I want you to all train with me, but when and if you can't, find a good place and get something out of it. All right, my last question could be a variety of answers. I think I want to kind of follow this with my different guests because I get asked this often, and it's what is the one most effective technique that everyone should know? If there was only one important move to master, what is it?
It's just, the problem is the more you understand that there's not just one thing that's best. So
it's hard to give an answer, right?
When somebody asks that question, it's like, oh, it's very situational. Like, So I would say fundamentally, maybe just how to have a base in general, be it standing or grappling or whatever, just having a center.
Okay.
A way to
So
like
if you are
handle
tying
yourself.
down a technique,
Yeah.
then yours is, which is great, is
Handle yourself.
the foundation, the base,
yeah, the foundation,
posture.
Yeah, your stance, your ability to maintain your balance when being, would being messed with. It's kind of a general, very general thing, but it's where everything starts as far as when it comes to a fight, is me being able to maintain myself.
I actually like that. I think because from afar,
you
don't look vulnerable, right? You don't look like a weak victim. So even before situation, just the
how
base,
to be
the
ready.
posture,
like if I want to boil it down to one thing, it's just balance. But that's not really my answer. There's not really a one.
Oh, everybody wants to know it though. The one finger death touch.
Yeah. Yes. No, I don't. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, guys. Anything else, Mr. Cody?
No.
Well, man,
sir.
I really appreciate you taking the time and doing this on our little new podcast. I respect you as a martial artist, your hard work. I've seen you go through some struggles and win some very high-level matches and a different variety of things. Your loyalty, your example, and your leadership. So, you're doing great, man. Continue, and I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see y'all soon.